All right, so what's going on, everybody? This is episode 2 of Off the Record with k.jachimowicz. I honestly was not planning to do another episode until next Saturday, but I came across a YouTube video that I found interesting and intriguing, and I wanted to talk about some of the topics that were brought up in it. And yeah, I kind of like going deep and just looking into some of these, like, I don't want to call them nobodies, but I like looking at, like, the average people, like the regular people's accounts, and seeing what they have to say rather than just being fed whatever the algorithm wants me to, eat up. But so, like, one of the main points this YouTuber makes in this video of his is the whole concept of paralysis analysis, which I'm kind of fascinated by and wasn't very familiar with on a term basis before this. So just to give you the definition, if you aren't already aware, analysis paralysis is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when someone is unable to make a decision due to excessive thinking or over-analyzing of a situation. It can happen in many aspects of life, such as when choosing a restaurant or a career path. Some common causes of analysis paralysis include fear of making mistakes, making errors, desire for perfection, and this causes anxiety, depression, etc. in people. So I think this is very interesting, and I notice that this phenomenon affects decision-making in various aspects of life, such as career, investment, personal growth, risk-taking in just about anything. And it really highlights this whole, like, dumb versus intelligent, like, dichotomy. So, like, I don't know if you guys ever heard people say this kind of concept about how, like, why, like, dumb people are, like, more successful than, like, the quote-unquote intelligent people. And, like, this is very interesting to me because a lot of this has to do with, like, the roles that confidence, risk tolerance, and fear of failure play, like, in just in the human mind and spirit. And, like, yeah, I just wanted to explore, like, why individuals perceived as, like, less intelligent, quote unquote, might take more risks and achieve greater success. And I think the reason it is that way is because people that are, like, have all these degrees and are, like, hinging on their value coming from, like, these educational systems, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not, like, disputing the quality of, like, going and getting yourself a good education. Like, that's wonderful. But, like, I do notice in myself, and because I'm a college graduate, I didn't go anywhere incredible, but I went to college for journalism. I'm a journalism graduate, and I did IT stuff as my minor, networking technologies to be specific. And I've noticed a lot of that in me. I don't know if it was the way I was raised or just the way I perceived the world growing up, but I definitely feel like I had a big issue with, like, perfectionism. And, like, sometimes it's helpful, but other times it's paralyzing, like this term claims, like paralysis analysis. But and yeah, it's just interesting too, like, there's so much benefit in just action over perfection. Like, even me just doing this podcast, like, just spur of the moment and just breaking that fear barrier was, like, so big for me personally. And just, like, just doing stuff, like, just not being so terrified. Like, I feel like there was this big, like, ideology for the past few, like, decades, and I don't know if it's just where I was kind of raised up and what I've been around, but this whole thing of just, like, everything's impossible. Oh my God, you can't do that, you can't do this. And I also see in the last generation, like, this major fear of failure or mistake. And I feel like that's been tried to be pushed onto the younger generations, but it hasn't worked at all. It's backfired, actually. And, like, for example, like, do you know how many people in this country, like, are terrified to just post their thoughts on social media or post what they actually think about something or say this or say that. Everyone has been terrified for years, possibly over a decade now, to just say what's actually going on in their mind because they're just paralyzed by this fear of failure. And it's just like, we need to all shatter that. We need to break right through that, break through these fear barriers, get comfortable, stop letting these people that are way, way above us, like, keep us way down here, whatever. And and I do believe that, like, the fear of failure really can paralyze, like, some of the most genius people we have on earth. And I think one of the best strategies for overcoming that is just shattering the fear barrier. Like, go get a microphone, make a song, make the podcast, do that thing that you've been wanting to do, because time isn't going in reverse, man. It's going forward and it's flying. And I wanted to touch on too, just like the role of intuition in this kind of thing, like in your gut feelings, like trust your gut with all this stuff, with whatever it is. Like, even me, I discussed in my last episode just about how, like, I had people in my ear telling me, hold off on the reinvestment, you know, like, there's going to be a big dip. There's too much volatility, elections, blah, blah, blah. It's like, so many of these people are just stuck in the past and they don't even know, like, what's going on in the modern world because they haven't bothered to keep up with, like, these new apps or these kind of, like, underworld style apps like X's now, where you're, like, getting, like, you're undercutting, like, the system, and you're getting the information, like, that they basically don't want you to get, to put it extremely simply. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely a role intuition plays in that, like, in just knowing what you need to do with yourself, knowing what you need to believe or trust, or, you know, it's instincts, it's gut, it's intuition. And it's also, like, learning from failure and mistakes, because if you don't take these risks, try these things, take your chances, put yourself out there, someone else is just going to do it and take a spot you could have had before. Like, they're just going to beat you to it and you're going to feel left out. And it's like, you just got to do it, man. Like, this long form content is so good. It's such a confidence builder. Like, I recommend this to anyone listening, honest to God, to, like, really build public speaking confidence, break all this down, and grow, get stronger, adapt, learn from the mistakes. Everything. Sharpen your decision making, your live presence. And another thing I wanted to touch on that was very present, I felt like, in my kind of life, and, like, I'm not trying to call people out or anything here. I'm not trying to be negative at all. But I just think there's, like, this old school mindset that used to exist that's pretty much phased out at this point, where, like, I just remember hearing as a kid, like, oh, you could never be like Eminem. Like, come on, you could never be like Nomar Garcia Parra or Manny Ramirez or these famous athletes or artists. Like, come on, they live. You could never do that. And it's just like now, like that mindset, that past mindset made certain levels of success feel so unobtainable, as if they were, like, reserved for, like, the chosen few. Like, and, like, technology has made these once impossible, like, achievements just completely accessible for, like, regular people to a certain degree. And it's really fascinating to me, like, where this all goes in the long term. And, like, the direct access to our role models, like, that's all interesting to me too. Like, just having direct access to these athletes, celebrities, influencers, political figures. It's like, it's very interesting. It's very eye-opening. But I've always had this thought that it's inevitable that, like, it all gets undercut by, like, the common folk in the end. I don't know. I could be a total idiot saying that, but I have this, like, feeling this whole time that that's how it all turns out. Yeah, I mean, that's basically, like, just fame and opportunity being, like, totally, you know, free for all. Like, I mean, the wild, wild west of the internet, it almost feels like it's a new era to me of the wild, wild west of the internet and this whole influencing stuff. I could be totally wrong. That could be past, but I feel it changing personally. And I see a huge mindset shift in the younger generations. Like they don't see these celebrities or athletes or anyone as unattainable idols. Like they see them as like sources of inspiration to like immediately take action and build confidence and ambition for their future goals or generations or whatever. It fascinates me, to be honest with you. And it's a powerful evolution because it tells people that greatness is not something you're either born with or without. It is within reach for all of us, and we all have the tools to pursue it and obtain it. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys for tonight. Keep it a quick, short one. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Follow me on Instagram. Follow my podcast on Apple, Spotify. Share them with your friends if you find anything interesting. Feel free to review, critique, good or bad. I'm open to any of it. And thanks for joining this ride with me. Good night.